Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe with what in effect is episode 35, and yet it is something a little bit different. We are moving outside of the years 79 to 94 and beginning something I'm going to call the years before and after. It is still Italy's Holocaust, right? Because it is everything and everything Italian. But I thought it was time to break out of this a little bit and start looking at some good Italian stuff that predate the time span and maybe even come after the time span. I'm still going to go back into the time span, but I'm going to take a break from that and just look at some movies that I always think, man, I would love to review that. I would love to talk about that. And this is no exception. I wasn't sure what I would leap off of, but suddenly it occurred to me. I just was in the mood to watch Deep Red, Profondo, Rosso, 1975, Dario, Argento. And this movie, in the few viewings that I've had in the last week or two or whatever, have done a lot to sort of re-energize my thought process and just what I think about Argento, what I think about his filmography and those movies that are close to me, the ones that I really do love. And as much as Fulci left his stamp on that particular time frame, the years before, really, Argento's leaving his stamp. In 1970, of course, The Bird with the Crystal Plumage with it will be his directorial debut. But in 75, he will put the final stamp on what has really been a boom for the gialli. In this movie, man, I have fallen in love with this movie to such a degree that my next Crazy Fives is Argento. In fact, I'm going to do it today and put out in its normal time slot, but I'm going to do it today while I got the buzz going on, right, for some Argento. I do sport the Arrow 2 hours 7 minutes director's cut. Is that what they? Yeah, the director's cut. As with Arrow, a lot of stuff in here. Show you the back there. You can pause that whenever you want, and then boom, take a look at that. Of course, alternative work inside. Some people not some. A bit of Argento's fans refer to this as his masterpiece. Boy, that's tough with a director like him or Fulci. You gotta maybe 2 or 3 movies out of their filmography you would even dare use that word. But this movie is flawless, man. This movie, there is nothing, like, you can't, as hard as you may try, there is nothing about this movie that you could pick apart, pan apart. I mean, it's a good moment to just highlight a few people. Fredicelli, who is Argento's main editor for everything Argento, right? Suspira, but everything, most of everything Argento. This marks the first collaboration between him and Goblin. Of course, we will feel that presence, man, with Suspira. I mean, that has got to be one of the single greatest scores ever laid to a horror film. Luigi Cavalier, as I say, the cinematographer, known for some things like A Lizard in a Woman's Skin, New York Ripper. So he worked with Fulci a bit, and Bava's Body Puzzle. We got that written down. Rambaldi, our special effects. Of course, he would go on to have quite a career. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Alien. He'd be part of King Kong in '76. The Hand, Michael Caine's film, Possession in '81. So quite a few interesting hands, and that isn't even beginning to get into the cast. David Hemmings, who is just, I have a hard time trying to decide who I like more, him or our main protagonist in The Bird with the Crystal Plumage. I love them both, but I think there's just something really cool about David Hemmings in this movie. And Daria and Nicolodi, the two of them together. Now, this is the director's cut. So one of the things that sets the director's cut off from the theatrical is the amount of humor weaved in. Just one piece of that humor has to do with Gianni's, that's Daria Nicolodi's character, Gianni. I think that's how they said her name in there. Her car, if you, on the passenger side, if you accidentally lock it, she's got to get a mechanic to unlock it for her. So the only way out of the car, apparently, is to climb out through the hood, or not hood, but the roof, right? The roof of the car, which gives us a few really nice, and I say comedic, not like comedic in the way you think. I mean, it's more almost romantic comedic type. The two, it's interesting. Just call her Gianni for now. In fact, I was just thinking she lets out a laugh in this movie, and it's a funny laugh, but it reminds you of how she is going to tweak that laugh into that evil laughter at the end of Phenomena. I just thought, man, it just hit me when I heard it. But these two, now their relationship, she is like, I love Argento's writing. She is like the male figure in here, and he is like the female figure in the sense of one is stronger, one is weaker. And yet it is intrigue, or it is curiosity that is driving him. Like Bird with the Crystal Plumage, although the police are left out of this film, Polizei, whatever, are left out of this film, the detectives, much more than they are in Bird of the Crystal Plumage, where he's almost, in a minor sense, an antagonist, just because he's a thorn in our main character's side. Here, we don't really have that. Here, David Hemmings, or Marcus, will make the decision on his own. He needs to get to the bottom of this. He's intrigued. He's curious. He feels compelled, even against the fear, which he'll finally succumb to towards the end, in which case him and Gianni will make the decision to just drive off the plane because he's too terrified to get into a plane. You gotta love this whole movie, from every frame, the mystery we get our opening scene of a murder, and I am not going anywhere near spoilers in this. This is a movie that if you have never seen Deep Red, you have to. This is on the top of Argento's heap. I'm not going to say it's my favorite, but man, it gives Bird. Now, there are some things Bird does that I actually like better, but there are things this does I like better. You've got to see Deep Red. I am not spoiling this movie. I'm not telling you who the killer is. I'm not going anywhere near there. So this is going to make this review not quite as long, I hope. Although I could talk all day about this. You've got an opening scene that lays out a murder that happened years prior in his house, which just adds an element to this film. There is a horror element that is weaved in. It is a detective, it is a giallo, it is a horror film. It's somewhat supernatural at points. There's a hauntingness about this film, and there is a fury that drives our antagonist, our killer, that is frightening when you see it completely. I mean, it's just frightening. There are a few component characters that when you finally understand the whole complexity of the plot and the narrative, the background and who is who and where and what, you realize just the horror of the situation that is blanketed some of these characters and has driven some of these characters to make choices that, quite frankly, and I'm not going to get into it, I don't want to step on certain toes, but I think in one particular character, if it wasn't for certain things happening in that character's life, they might not have fallen into that quagmire of sorts that we see this character. I don't even want to get into it, but we see this one character that you wonder, would this character even be doing this if it wasn't for all these other things? I'm just thinking. So you have this murder laid out. You jump out some years, and now you're introduced to Marcus, David Hemmings' character, and his buddy Carlo. They're both pianists. But as we find out, one is Carlo is a pianist because he has to earn a living. Marcus does it because of the art. He loves playing the piano. And so early on, we're introduced to another character who, as a result of our first major murder set piece, she is a psychic, telepathic psychic extraordinaire, Jewish too, I think, because when we see the funeral scene with her, well, as a result of her untimely death, it is Hebrew rites are being done. So she's a Jewish psychic, telepathic, one who senses things that normal people just don't sense, I guess, extraordinaire. And she's we're introduced to her, Helga, the psychic, call her, not really a psychic per se, something else, but she's giving a lecture. Her and her psychiatrist and people around her, whatever, they're giving a lecture to this huge audience. She senses in the midst of what they're doing, she senses it, and just somebody who is extremely screwed up and he's got just some serious baggage going on, who is just sort of thinking things the moment that just sort of like nails drive into this psychic. The scene is insane. It is incredible. When you get past it and you look back at it, kind of stuff. And so she senses this person and she calls this person out. Now, what's really fascinating about this is the character in question in this moment will ultimately get up and leave the auditorium. But if you know anything about theater, stage, whatever, when you're up on stage, you are literally blinded to the audience by the light shining down on you. So there's this like buffer, right? So like everything that happens beyond the lights is but a blur. I know I've worked in theater as a kid. I know what that feels like. Those lights are insane. I don't know how they do that, actually. And so we have this great moment of, is our antagonist amongst the crowd there viewing this lecture? And if so, why? I don't know if that question's ever answered. But as a result of this, now our antagonist, our killer, is afraid that the shroud might be lifted, that maybe the psychic has seen too much. And so the psychic becomes target number one, and which David Hemmings' character, Marcus, will see the moments leading up to the end of that final act. She'll be like up in this window, and he'll just see her crash through the glass and then just kind of lay there. He will rush up because he's actually her neighbor. He's staying in an apartment up there in the same building, and he will run up there and try. There's nothing he can do to save her. She's already dead. The killer makes the exit, and now in the moments leading up to that, him and his buddy Carlo's just drunk off his butt. He's taking a break. He's got to get back in there to get back at his work, playing the piano. But in the aftermath of all of this, he thinks he sees the killer leave the scene, and he sees Carlo down there as well. And so he ultimately ends up rushing down and to try to ascertain, did you see this? Did you see this person or whatever? It's a great conversation that actually unfolds between the two. But in the moment when Marcus first walks through, as he's walking down this hallway of these incredible elaborate paintings, very not evil, but just very bizarre paintings, he will, let's just say, in the aftermath of the scene, and when the police are there interrogating, he believes something is missing. Something seems to be missing from the equation, and he can't put his finger on it. And this will drive the rest of the film in a just absolutely brilliant way. It is very, very interesting. And by the end of the film, you will find out what in fact he did miss. And it's just brilliant. I love David Hemmings in this movie. He is so awesome. Now, when Gianna, Nicolodi's character, is a journalist, so she'll arrive on the scene as well, the opening murder scene. Well, the first major one in our movie. She'll get there, and her and Marcus will, somehow form an interesting companionship. Again, one where she really supplies the I'm not afraid, the strong qualities, and he will be the weaker side of that. It's a great arm wrestling match that the two will do, and it's just, he gets so mad because she beats him. But together, they're able to form this sort of weird companionship that ultimately helps to drive our killer out of the shadows and lead to the great unveiling. It's just amazing. Goblin score is unstinking real. In fact, Claudio Simonati gives a brief intro into this, which is really cool too. Some of the set pieces, the murders are just brutal. I mean, this is Dario at his best, man. Well, that ride will end in '87 with Opera, right? There's some good ones in Phenomenon. Of course, Aspira. Be some good ones. And in Bird, there's some good ones, right? And the death of her is interesting. And in fact, there's another murder that involves a head, face scalding in boiling or hot water that predates the scene in Halloween 2, right, where Michael puts the nurse's head into the scalding water, but it's this clues, and it all begins with the psychic, and it all begins with what she infers and what she relate before her death, and what she relates to those around her, who then move that information to Marcus at varying points of the film, in which Marcus is then able to piece together. And the real mystery, though, is how does this killer always seem to be a step ahead of him and meet him at every point, almost as though it's a cat playing with a mouse. It's intriguing. It is, the writing in this movie is, I dare say it's flawless. I don't think there's one thing. I mean, there's a few points that may not have full explanation, but I don't know if this movie would be as good if there was an explanation for every single point. I don't know. There are scenes that the killer gets captured on film and strikingly just really scary. I mean, it just makes you blood curdle a little bit just thinking about what's about to happen. But those who live by the sword, as the scriptures say, die by the sword. And so you got some set pieces at the end that are just unreal. And I don't even want to give those away. If you have never seen Deep Red, you've got to see Deep Red. I'm getting close to the 20-minute mark, and I really should wrap this up. Because I just don't want to spoil it. I don't want to get into it and just lay it all out there. Nicolodi Elma plays this little girl, Olga. Oh yeah, I didn't even mention her. There is a curious juncture in the film where Marcus lands at, where he's putting together the place where the murder that we see in the opening seconds that lays the foundation for the rest of the film. Not the psychic, but the opening credits murder set piece. Anyways, he arrives at this point somewhere in the midst of this film. And the custodians of the house, this older gentleman and his young little daughter, Olga, who is the lobby girl from Demons, much grown up. She's got this twisted fascination of poking needles into lizards and just bizarre, weird things. And there is even a curious scene that seems to make no sense at all. Like, why it is even, you see two dogs that are just fighting in combat with one another. And I think it's, I don't know if that scene is blanketed as well as it could be, but I think it's an inference into the killer and what's happening psychologically. I think, I don't know. There's a lot to read into this movie. There's a lot to infer and ascertain and just enjoy. Sometimes I can't believe this movie is 1975. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Originally, it was the script was originally more than 500 pages, but Argento got it down to about 321. And so the director's cut ends up being about 2 hours, 7 minutes. I think it's about 18 minutes cut off on the theatrical, which removes much of the humor, which I think is, this movie, 2 hours and 7 minutes, it flies. I don't know where the 2 hours and 7 minutes goes, but I mean, you put this in and it's like, boom, it's like, what, over? Holy crap, where did that time go? So anyways, as a result of this, like I said, my next Crazy Fives is going to be my heap of Argento, which I cannot do without. But man, if you've never seen this, you are missing one of Argento's best. And I'm going to leave it at that, man. Good stuff, man. So this is Italy's Holocaust. This is the years before and after 79 to 94. And we're gonna stay out here for a while and venture into a few places. And yeah. So anyways, Deep Red. Sorry it ran so long. It is an intriguing film, and you really do need to see it. And enjoy the holidays. We are getting close to December. And with that, of course, the busyness of the season and everything else. And I hope all is well with you and your family. Thank you for the support. Thank you for the comments. Thank you just for visiting, for watching, for hit that like button occasionally. It helps. Leave a comment and whatever. But anyways, as always, we end these things off with Go Bills.
This is not a dream. Not a dream.